Here's a mind-bending question. Why do some of the smartest people you know make the dumbest decisions? The straight-A student who can solve complex equations but can't figure out why their relationships keep failing. The brilliant CEO who built a billion-dollar company but destroyed it with one terrible choice. The PhD who understands quantum physics but falls for obvious scams. You'd think intelligence would protect us from bad decisions, right? Here's what research reveals. High IQ actually makes you more vulnerable to certain types of terrible choices. And if you've ever wondered why you keep making mistakes despite being smart, this isn't about lacking intelligence. It's about how intelligence can become your biggest blind spot. Today, I'm going to show you the 3 psychological traps that catch intelligent people every single time, why wisdom and intelligence are completely different things, and how biblical and philosophical traditions have understood this for thousands of years. By the end of these 10 minutes, you'll understand why being smart isn't enough, and you'll have practical tools to make better decisions regardless of your IQ. And if you've been enjoying this series on psychology, philosophy, and biblical wisdom, I'd love for you to subscribe. We're building a community of people who want to think better, not just think more. So let's dive in. What's the difference between being intelligent and being wise? First, let's define what we're talking about. Intelligence is your ability to process information, solve problems, and learn quickly. It's what IQ tests measure: pattern recognition, logical reasoning, memory. Wisdom, on the other hand, is something entirely different. Wisdom is the ability to make good judgments in complex, real-world situations where there's no clear right answer. It's knowing not just how to think, but when to think, what to think about, and, crucially, when to stop thinking. Here's the kicker. Research from Yale and the University of Toronto shows that people with higher IQs are actually more susceptible to cognitive biases in many situations. Why? Because intelligent people are better at building convincing arguments, including convincing arguments for bad ideas. When you're smart, you can rationalize almost anything. You can find sophisticated reasons for terrible decisions. You can build elaborate logical frameworks that lead to completely wrong conclusions. Intelligence gives you the tools to fool yourself more effectively. Trap number 1, the complexity trap. Smart people love complex solutions. If you can understand quantum mechanics, surely your relationship problems require equally sophisticated analysis, right? Wrong. Sometimes the answer is simple. You're not listening to your partner. But intelligent people often overcomplicate simple problems because simple solutions feel beneath their intellectual capacity. Trap number 2, the analysis paralysis trap. Intelligent people can see every angle, every possibility, every potential outcome. Sounds good, right? Except when you can analyze forever, you never actually decide. Smart people often get stuck in endless research loops, waiting for perfect information that never comes, while less intelligent people make good enough decisions and move forward. Trap number 3, the expertise trap. This is the deadliest one. When you're expert in one area, your brain tricks you into thinking you're expert in everything. The surgeon who thinks they understand economics. The engineer who believes they're automatically good at parenting. Intelligence in one domain creates overconfidence in completely unrelated areas. This is where ancient wisdom becomes incredibly relevant. Proverbs 9:10 says, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and knowledge of the Holy One is understanding." Now, whether you're religious or not, there's profound psychology here. The Hebrew word for fear is yira. It doesn't mean terror, it means awe and reverence. It's the recognition that there are things bigger and more complex than your individual understanding. The wisest people throughout history have shared one crucial trait: intellectual humility. They understood the limits of their knowledge. Socrates, one of history's greatest thinkers, was famous for saying, "I know that I know nothing." This wasn't false modesty. It was the foundation of true wisdom. Research by psychologist Mark Leary shows that people with intellectual humility make better decisions, have better relationships, and are more successful in the long run. Why? Because they're constantly learning instead of constantly defending what they already know. Biblical wisdom consistently emphasizes this theme. Proverbs 3:7 warns, Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and shun evil. The danger isn't being smart, it's thinking your smartness makes you automatically wise. The ancient Stoics understood this distinction perfectly. They taught that wisdom comes not from accumulating more information, but from developing better judgment about what actually matters. Marcus Aurelius, literally the most powerful man in the world at his time, wrote, "How much trouble he avoids who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does, but only to what he does himself." The Stoics had a practice called the discipline of judgment. Before making any decision, they would ask themselves 3 questions. 1. Is this actually important, or does it just feel important? Smart people often get distracted by interesting problems that don't actually matter. Just because you can analyze something doesn't mean you should. 2. What am I trying to prove by making this decision? Often our rational decisions are actually driven by ego. Are you choosing the complex solution because it's better, or because it makes you feel smart? 3. What would I choose if I couldn't explain this decision to anyone? This removes the performance aspect of intelligence. Sometimes the wise choice is the one you can't impress people with. If this perspective is helpful, I'd be grateful if you hit that like button. It helps more people discover these ideas. Modern cognitive science validates these ancient insights. Research shows that people make better decisions when they consider their emotional motivations alongside their logical analysis. Here's what's fascinating. Neuroscience shows that the wisest decisions actually use more of your brain, not less. When you make a purely rational decision, you're primarily using your prefrontal cortex. But wise decisions integrate your prefrontal cortex with your emotional centers, your intuition, and your accumulated life experience. The insula, a brain region that integrates emotional and physical signals, is more active in people who make consistently good decisions. Your gut feelings aren't irrational. They're your brain processing patterns too complex for conscious analysis. This is why the Bible talks about wisdom being written on the tablets of your heart, Proverbs 3:3. It's not just metaphorical. Wisdom literally involves your whole being, not just your analytical mind. The paradox is this. The smartest decision is often to not rely entirely on your smartness. Jesus demonstrated this perfectly when the Pharisees, the most educated, intelligent religious experts of their time, tried to trap him with complex theological questions. Instead of matching their intellectual sophistication, he often responded with simple stories and direct wisdom that cut straight to the heart of the matter. Here's the reframe that changes everything. The goal isn't to make the smartest decision, it's to make the wisest decision. And wisdom often looks surprisingly simple. Think about the best advice you've ever received. Chances are, it wasn't complicated. Listen more than you speak. Actions speak louder than words. This too shall pass. These aren't intellectually impressive insights, but they're transformationally powerful. Research by psychologist Barry Schwartz shows that people who aim for good enough decisions, satisficers, are consistently happier than people who aim for perfect decisions, maximizers. Intelligence often pushes us toward maximizing, finding the absolute best option. But wisdom recognizes that good enough, chosen quickly and executed well, usually beats perfect, arrived at too late. The Bible captures this in Ecclesiastes 7:16. Do not be over-righteous, neither be over-wise. Why destroy yourself? Even wisdom can become a trap if you're trying to be wise, instead of simply being present to what the situation actually requires. Here's your practical takeaway, what I call the wisdom upgrade practice. Before any important decision, use this 4-step filter. Step 1. The humility check. 30 seconds. Ask, what am I trying to prove with this decision? If you're trying to prove how smart you are, that's a red flag. The wisest choices often can't be explained in ways that impress people. Step 2. The simplicity test. 1 minute. Ask, what would a wise but not particularly intelligent person do here? Strip away the intellectual complexity and look for the simple human wisdom. Often that's your answer. Step 3. The heart-mind integration, 1 minute. Check in with both your logic and your gut. If they disagree, don't automatically trust your logic. Your intuition processes information your conscious mind can't access. Wisdom integrates both. Step 4. The future self question, 30 seconds. Ask, will I be proud of this decision in 10 years? Not, will this decision look smart? But will this decision reflect wisdom? Time reveals the difference between clever and wise. Use this practice for 2 weeks on decisions both big and small. Watch how it shifts not just what you choose, but how you think about choosing. Remember, intelligence is a tool, but wisdom chooses how to use the tool. You can be brilliant and foolish or simple and wise. The goal isn't to think less, it's to think better. The smartest thing you can do is recognize the limits of being smart. The wisest thing you can do is stay humble enough to keep learning. And the most powerful thing you can do is integrate your intelligence with your heart, your values, and your deeper understanding of what actually matters. Here's my question for you. Can you think of a time when you made a smart decision that wasn't actually wise? What would you do differently now? Share your thoughts in the comments. Sometimes admitting our intelligent mistakes is the beginning of wisdom. And if this video helped you think differently about intelligence and wisdom, I'd be so grateful if you'd subscribe and hit that notification bell. Next week, we're exploring the psychology of forgiveness and why it sets you free. It's going to challenge everything you think you know about letting go. Until then, remember, the wisest people aren't the ones with all the answers. They're the ones asking better questions. Peace.